As we know, a criminal past often leads to serious suspicion and harsher punishment for any offenses. However, the accused do not always turn out to be criminals. The investigation of complicated cases and an objective assessment of guilt is the key task of the law enforcement and judicial system. In today's complex story, the detective had to work hard to unravel the web of lies that entangled the case. Laura Lee Feist was born in 1965 in Orange County, California. At the age of 17, she began dating James Kendall, a 21-year-old college student. Despite their warm relationship, there was one serious problem. James continued to meet other girls, which Laura quickly discovered. Instead of breaking up with him, she decided to take revenge. On May 11, 1982, James took Laura in his pickup truck to her house in Laguna Beach. After getting out of the truck, Laura retrieved a revolver and returned to shoot James in the chest, killing him instantly. Laura was wounded in the shoulder but survived. Neighbors who heard the gunshots called emergency services. When they arrived, James was dead, and Laura was taken to the hospital. Initially, the police suspected a robbery gone wrong as nothing appeared stolen from the scene. However, a message was found on a business card left by Laura. The note indicated that she planned to kill James and then take her own life to avoid responsibility. However, she didn't go through with her suicide plan and shot herself in the shoulder instead, trying to stage the crime as a robbery gone wrong. After recovering, Laura was questioned by detectives. She changed her story multiple times, initially claiming they were victims of a robbery. Eventually, under pressure, she admitted to killing James out of revenge because of his infidelity and desire to break up with her. The investigation revealed that James was planning to end their relationship that very day, which pushed Laura to carry out her deadly plan. Laura was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to serve time in a California youth facility. Despite this softer sentencing, she faced danger from other inmates and was attacked several times. However, her time there passed relatively quietly, and she was released in 1987 after serving 5 years. After prison, Laura moved to Baltimore and became a nurse, but she soon found the work too stressful and left her job. She later retrained as a nightclub dancer where she earned good money and became quite popular. Her personal life was tumultuous, with multiple marriages. She even got into legal trouble again when she was found to be married to multiple men at the same time, leading to a trial in 1993. Despite the situation, she received a suspended sentence. Her wild lifestyle continued, and in 1995 she was arrested for firing a gun at her own car to stage an insurance scam. She was also found to have stolen items from her neighbors. Laura was sentenced to 7 years in prison but only served 6 months before being released again. In 1997, Laura moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, where she became a popular bikini model and sold explicit content. She eventually met a man named Fieldy, and they got married. The couple had a son named Cameron. Laura appeared to be a loving mother, but her past and controversial actions still raised eyebrows among those around her. In 2011, Laura met a younger man named David. They began an affair which led to her divorce from Fieldy. Laura and David started living together, and eventually, in 2012, they got married. David had a son, Taylor, from a previous marriage. On October 5, 2012, Laura took Taylor to the beach. The boy was 6 years old and had a great time swimming. However, something went wrong, and Taylor disappeared underwater. Despite Laura's attempt to save him and rush him to the hospital, it was too late and the child was pronounced dead. The tragedy was met with suspicion. Laura hadn't informed anyone about taking Taylor to the beach, and some believed her actions were reckless. Taylor's father, David, and his ex-wife, Kelly, were devastated by the loss. The situation sparked anger and accusations from Kelly, who blamed Laura for her son's death. However, Laura's response seemed unemotional, and this only raised more questions. As the investigation continued, more details about Laura's past and her behavior came to light. Was this a tragic accident, or was there more to the story? The mother of the deceased child expressed her doubts about the circumstances surrounding the accident. She was furious. Why did Laura take her son to the beach without permission? And most concerning, why did she allow him to swim without a life jacket, especially with the strong waves which even adults could struggle against? Tragically, this proved to be true. The waves were powerful, and there was a dangerous undercurrent that could pull anyone under, including a child. Most people are aware of the risks of swimming in such conditions, especially for children. But why did Laura act so recklessly? The detectives continued their investigation and began to notice inconsistencies in Laura's story. First, they discovered that the hospital she chose was not the nearest one to the beach, and the child could have been taken to another medical facility or even a fire station for immediate help. Laura explained her decision by saying she didn't consider the fire station at all, possibly due to panic. Secondly, the police couldn't believe that Laura, who had completed a nursing course and worked in a hospital, wouldn't be able to administer first aid to the child. The emergency dispatcher had provided basic instructions that even someone with minimal experience could have followed. Despite this, Laura chose to drive the child to a distant hospital, a decision that likely cost the child valuable minutes that were crucial as brain death can occur after just 5 minutes without oxygen. These discrepancies raised more questions about Laura's actions. Both Laura and Kelly, the child's mother, were brought in for questioning. During her interrogation, Laura showed no emotion and seemed indifferent to the tragedy, avoiding eye contact with the detectives. She also appeared confused during her testimony, unable to provide any meaningful details, and her entire story seemed fabricated. She even struggled to answer basic questions such as how deep the water was when the boy went under. Instead, she described the incident in vague terms, claiming that the boy was cute and that the wave just carried him away so quickly. The child's mother, Kelly, was devastated by her son's death and placed full blame on Laura for not properly supervising him. For David, the boy's father, the loss was a devastating blow, as his son was his world. David had been in the process of seeking full custody of Taylor, and the police believed this may have been a potential motive for Laura to harm the child. Investigators speculated that Laura, possibly unhappy with her ex-husband's plans for custody, might have viewed Taylor as a threat to her personal life and her relationship with David. Further investigation revealed troubling details about Laura's past. David discovered that Laura had a criminal history, including charges related to a past murder, bigamy, fraud, and other serious offenses. When confronted, Laura explained that her actions had been a result of being mistreated by her previous boyfriend. David, believing her, had continued to trust her with their son. However, as the investigation into Taylor's death progressed, even David began to question Laura's involvement in the tragedy. The detectives found Laura's behavior increasingly suspicious. She had taken the child to a secluded part of the beach, far from help, and allowed him to swim without a life jacket. After pulling him from the water, she did not attempt to provide first aid, but instead drove to a distant hospital, likely depriving the child of his last chance for survival. Investigators felt there was strong evidence of criminal negligence and even possible child endangerment. Laura was eventually arrested and charged with capital murder. During her time in custody, a simulation using a dummy that matched the child's height and weight was conducted. The results contradicted Laura's version of events, further casting doubt on her story. Less than 24 hours after her arrest, she posted a $50,000 bail and was released. However, she was restricted from visiting places where children were present, as she was considered a potential danger. Despite the growing evidence against her, Laura continued to deny all charges, maintaining her innocence. She went shopping a few days after her release, attempting to disguise herself with a wig. However, she was recognized by a police officer, leading to her rearrest on December 4, 2012, for violating her bail conditions. The investigation continued, and a key witness came forward. This witness claimed that Laura had been calm and collected, not panicked, as she left the beach with the child. The witness described her as smiling and waving goodbye to the boy, casting further doubt on her emotional response to the situation. This testimony became crucial during the trial. In January 2013, the trial began, and the prosecution presented evidence that Laura had planned the incident. They argued that she had taken the child away from his mother under the pretense of spending time with his father, but she had no intention of taking him to a safe beach. Instead, she had chosen a secluded location, where the child was allowed to swim in dangerous conditions. Afterward, she failed to provide the necessary first aid and took him to a distant hospital, possibly preventing any chance of saving him. The defense argued that no one could know for certain what had happened that day, and that there was no direct evidence linking Laura to the child's death. However, the prosecution pointed to her inability to provide first aid, despite her medical background and her strange behavior before and after the incident. Her criminal history, including a previous conviction for murder, was also cited as a reason to suspect her actions were premeditated. During the trial, Laura's mental health was discussed, with the prosecution suggesting that she had a possible borderline personality disorder, although no formal psychiatric evaluation had been conducted. Laura's behavior during the trial, including her impulsive actions and need for attention, was also highlighted by the prosecution as indicative of her possible motive for harming the child. In June 2013, Laura was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Despite her conviction, she continued to insist on her innocence. Even in prison, she began a new romantic relationship, raising questions about her emotional state and her motivations for the crime. Thank you for watching.